Hello, you lovely listeners. I'm Amy. Welcome to the Really Good Conversations podcast, where we will delve into the minds of the business people we have met in the process of launching our first card game. We will be uncovering their secrets to success, their biggest mistakes, and sharing the key lessons they have picked up en route. So, if you're looking for an engaging chinwag mixed with business insights and a good pinch of fun, you're in the right place. Let's have a really good conversation. Welcome to the Really Good Conversations podcast. Today is going to be a slightly different episode to usual, as I am putting myself in the conversation hot seat. So I thought I would share some of the insights, lessons, learnings that we have experienced since we launched Really Good Conversations in September 22. When I decided to do this podcast, it was really to bring to life the stories of some of the amazing businesses, founders, brands, conversation experts that, we've met along the way, and hear their stories, hear their background, and really learn from their experiences. And I guess you sort of forget when you're in it and you're doing it yourself that you actually do have a story also. And it's probably not until when we're chatting with friends or family that people do show an interest, and you forget how much you've actually done and how much you've actually achieved in that space of time. So I reached out online to ask what people wanted to know from our journey so far. And in this episode, I'm going to answer some of those questions, and then I'll also cover off some just quick tips that might also help other businesses on their journey as well. So, question number 1. What did you do before you started Really Good Conversations? So my personal background is that I was in marketing, worked in marketing agencies, both in London and Sydney, and working a lot on experiential live events. I actually started my own brand consultancy at the end of 2016 called Starts with A. And Alex, my husband, joined forces in that in about 2018. So we've actually been working together for quite a while, and we've been working with various other businesses and organizations on their brand strategy, their brand experiences, and a whole range of other marketing deliverables for those clients. We're both from the UK originally, and we actually came out to Sydney in 2013, and we've been back in the UK since mid-July 2022 for an extended visit after the world of COVID. Question number 2. What inspired you to start Really Good Conversations? So depending on how many episodes you may have listened to of our podcast, Alex and I actually did our very first episode was called Cards on the Table, Why We Need Really Good Conversations. And in that, we gave a bit of a background into where the idea came from and what the inspiration was. So if you haven't listened to that, give it a listen, because in the episode, Alex does say that if his episode gets 100 downloads, that he will do 10 backflips in a row. There's a little bit of context to that in the actual episode, and he's not far off. So I would be keen to see if he can still do 10 backflips, because he's not as young as he used to be. But that aside, for anyone new, I'll give a brief bit of background into what inspired us. I guess firstly, as I mentioned, Alex and I have worked together for quite a few years prior to this, and we've often wanted to create a product, a physical product. The work that we've typically done through our careers and in our own brand consultancy is service-based, and we are doing work on behalf of other people's brands, other people's businesses, helping them sell, promote, achieve their goals. So we equally have always wanted to try and create something that was also ours as well. So we've always had that slight desire in the back of our minds to create something at some point. And we've often had little brainstorms along the way, perhaps things that are happening in our lives and thinking, oh, could we create this into a product, or what would that look like? But with Really Good Conversations, the catalyst was in 2019 after Alex's grandfather passed away. And we were talking afterwards and had that realization that when the generations, do pass on, we lose the opportunity to ask the questions, to hear the stories. And I think in reality, we're just also busy running around in our day-to-day life that even when we do catch up with friends and family, we're often talking about the here and now. How's your week going? Or what have you been up to over the last week? What have you got on next week? And it's all very sort of, I guess, in the current, which is great to be living in the present. But we also don't necessarily take time to actually hear a bit more of their life experiences that has made them the person that they are today. So that was on our mind. And we went through a couple of ideas of how could we bring this to life, from doing Q&As with our family members, creating videos that we could perhaps keep as a time capsule. And we tested out some of these different ways of doing it. And then through our brainstorming walks at the time, we just thought, what is the lowest barrier to entry? What requires no technology, doesn't need videos, doesn't need people to commit certain, amounts of time, doesn't need you to get X number of people in a room or print anything, and also that gets people off their phones and gets people communicating and engaging and less distracted. So we just thought, a pack of cards. Keep it simple, it can fit in your pocket, it can fit in your bag, and you can play it for as long or as little as you like, really. So that is really what inspired us. And I think at the time we were obviously also coming through the COVID era, and even more so the reality was every time you caught up with somebody, the conversation was about COVID or the news or the media. So I think we really felt a need and a desire to bring different, more interesting, more meaningful conversations into both our lives and other people's lives. Question number 3, how did you go about launching the product? So we obviously had the idea, started developing questions. All the questions are ones that we have created. And Alex has a graphic design background. So he's done all of the design work for our packs, our website, everything that you see. So initially, we just need to get a minimal viable product test pack created. So Alex designed them all, and we literally just got it printed at a local print shop around the corner from our office and literally cut out all of the cards ourselves. And we first tested it on some family members down at the pub, and it was just amazing to see and hear some of the conversations, some of the stories that came up through that test at the pub. One of the questions in particular was, what's the closest you've been to death, which we asked my mum's husband. And he told us all about a story when he was, 17 years old, where he'd had a motorbike accident, clipped his shoulder on a bus, and then went underneath a bus and was in hospital for quite a long time. And his friend, brought the motorbike onto the hospital ward and everything. And for us, we just thought, wow, how have we not heard this story before? You could see how much he had lit up when he was telling us the story and remembering it. And it really just gave us that, I guess, confidence that this was something that had legs. So testing was our first phase, if you will, testing with other friends, testing with various people in our network, getting feedback from them. So that's obviously really important with any product development, getting feedback, taking it on board, and again, continuing to research as well. Obviously, when we came up with the idea, we thought we had something completely unique and different out there. And in reality, when we started Googling and looking around, there are other types of conversation games or cards out there. And we didn't let it deter us. And for us, we just felt this is our take on it. This is what we've created, and this is our journey of why to us it's important. And we felt that we weren't going to get too waylaid about what other people were doing in their world. So I think for anyone who is listening, and if you've got an idea and you think, well, other people have already done it or they're doing it, what I said to Alex in one of our conversations when he was having a crisis of confidence moment was, you go into the bottle shop, how many bottles of red wine are on the shelf? And ultimately, it's brand, it's a different flavour, it's a different taste that is what is separating them all. So it really doesn't matter if there is other people out there doing the same thing. It's doing it your way with your take on it. So that's just, I guess, a little tip as I'm going through this, how we launched. So initially it was, yes, testing, getting that feedback. And then over the course of the summer, we soon were into September, and we had the realization is if we don't get this out into the market now before Christmas, which is the perfect time for people obviously coming together and having conversations, then we would miss that boat. So for us, the timings forced our hand to just get on with it, get it out there, again, see what the feedback is from customers and the market, and then we could iterate and change and develop as we needed to. So from our launch side of things, it was testing it, minimal viable product, getting it out there, and then, hitting it live. And initially we put it live on Etsy just because it was quickest, easiest thing to get it up there on. And then we actually built our own website as well on Shopify. And I think what was key for us was that in reality, when you are on the platforms of other providers, such as Etsy and Amazon, our feeling was that ultimately they have all the control at the end of the day. So for us, it was important that actually we did have our own place that we could communicate with our audience, that we could sell our products directly to people, as well as using these other online channels. Question number 4, what have you learned since you launched Really Good Conversations? So gosh, we have learned a hell of a lot of stuff. I think firstly, it's interesting to note that even though we both come from a marketing, design, branding background, it's very different when you're doing it for yourself and it's your own product. When it's coming out of your own pocket, you're putting your own finances into it, and some of your decisions are based around some of those financials. So it's very different working on a client's brand where you are disconnected and you're providing them guidance to actually doing it all yourself and learning along the way. So in terms of things that we've learned is, I guess, retail is certainly a big one. We didn't have any experience in retail. And when we first were launching the cards, I said to Alex, yes, okay, let's get them online, but we do need to look at would a shop sell these and what feedback can we get from retailers. And I literally just went round a number of shops in my old hometown that, I actually used to go into as a child when I was growing up. And I literally just said, can I get your feedback on this? I told them the backstory. I told them what value it gave to customers. And I just wanted their thoughts. And did they think that their customers would engage with it, would buy it? What did they think of the price, of the packaging? What did they think about the fact it was manufactured in the UK? Was that important to them? So that was really insightful and really useful. And I think first off, a really obvious thing is that originally our very first version of the packaging just had the logo and the website on the front. It didn't really say anything else on the front of the packaging. And as one of the shop owners highlighted to me, they said, it all looks great, but when this is sat on a shelf, you're not here to tell the background story. So it's actually got to do all of the communication and the heavy lifting on its own. Now, this sounds totally obvious. And I think that's just such an important part to remember that, when we're often living in such a digital world and we can tell stories on social media and on our website, when somebody is at shelf in a physical space, your product needs to stand out. It needs to say what it is and what's the benefit. And immediately we made some updates to the packaging before we, actually pressed go on our first large order. So that was a key thing that we learned. Also in retail, we did our first trade show in January 2023. And again, we had to, in a week's notice, when we signed up for it, we had to understand what retailers are looking for, what margins they need to actually make the product viable in their store. Again, with producing in the UK, we're already at a certain price point just for getting it produced in England. So it is trying to ensure that the product is also going to still be of interest to the stores as well. Some other things we've learned along the way, obviously a lot about online selling channels, so Shopify, Amazon, Etsy, and the pros and cons to all of them. I won't go into all of that now because, again, it could be quite a lengthy podcast, but anyone feel free to reach out for us for any insights on that journey. Question number 5, how do you work with your husband? It's funny because I think it feels like we've now worked together for so long that I almost forget what it's like working in an office with other larger teams and different personalities. So overall, we have a great time, and I've often said before to people, it is like working with like the best colleague that you can have. A few little quirks, with differences for sure, is that when you're in perhaps a different office environment with your colleagues, you probably, you might beat around the bush a bit more when you're giving feedback to somebody or asking their opinion on things. Whereas I think certainly when you're in a relationship together, you can get to the point a bit quicker. You may be a bit more blunt with each other, maybe sometimes bordering on rude with each other. I know even just earlier, Alex was showing me something and I was giving a couple of thoughts or feedback points, and he actually said, jokingly to be fair, but he said, I'm not actually looking for your feedback. I'm just looking for your praise. So that's quite amusing, is that, in reality, he doesn't always want my contribution. I think certainly we've had to understand over the years of just the different ways that we work. I think that's important. Alex does really like that autonomy and working in silo on certain things, where I do like, the check-ins, having the plan and knowing what's coming ahead and us collaborating on things. But I think you have to respect the different ways that each other's work and give each other the necessary space. And it's having those conversations about how do you work best, or what things perhaps do I do that irritate you, or how can I support you better, or how can I get out of your way when you're needing to concentrate on things. We have over the years done a lot of, dividing and conquering exercises when we go through, what are out of the two of us our strengths and weaknesses. Alex particularly is very skilled in a lot of the tech side of things, in terms of design, coding, all of that. And at times I probably felt that I need to live up to his skill set and his standard. And in reality, we actually both bring a lot to the table with different skills. And that's probably where we complement each other as well. So I think it's sitting down and actually, what do each of you enjoy doing and what do you hate doing, so that you can actually share out those roles or equally outsource some of those roles that neither of you perhaps enjoy or are good at. One way that we do stay sane is we do have a sort of Sunday check-in, looking at like what's happening at the week ahead. Where are we? Any meetings, any deadlines, any requirements as well. Now with our beautiful little boy, we've got the childcare logistics and things like that now comes into it. We do notice when we miss these sessions, and reality is life gets in the way and you get busy and sometimes you can't, you're not in the mood to sit down and get into full planning mode. We do start to realize that, then we feel a bit misaligned. So definitely coming together and having those check-ins of what we've both got on, both personally and on a work side as well, and seeing where we can again give each other the time or space or support to actually do those things. So I definitely say that's a couple of tips and things that we do to try and keep ourselves sane. So, the final question that I'm going to cover in today's episode is, what tips would you give to a new or small business? So, a few things that I'm going to rattle through here, and some of it being obviously through our own experiences so far. Get comfortable with the uncertainty. So, particularly if you're having to invest your own money into things, it can obviously be a bit daunting and nerve-wracking of when are you going to see a return on that money? And I think is an element of just having confidence in your own product, having the faith in some respects that it will work out, and very much, it's sitting tight. So there's many days where you'll probably be thinking, oh God, why the hell am I doing this? It'd be far easier to work for somebody else and be getting paid a salary and not have all this additional things to worry about. But I think it's just, taking a breath and literally telling yourself to be calm with it and to just keep going. Definitely something we have had to keep reminding ourselves. Next one is just get started. We have a saying that done is better than perfect. I think obviously there's a lot of people that strive to get everything absolutely perfect before they launch something, and obviously that can just mean delay after delay. And the best thing is to just get something out there, see what people think, take feedback, iterate it, improve it, develop it. As I said, when we first launched, Etsy was the first place that we sold, purely because it was the easiest place to get set up quickly. And a few months after is when we actually made our Shopify website. So we certainly didn't have the website all done and ready before we actually launched. Do your due diligence when it comes to sourcing and choosing your suppliers. We actually jumped in a bit too quick with a supplier that we initially engaged, and originally their minimum order quantity was 500 units, and we were juggling lots of stuff going on in our personal world, and we were like, yeah, great, we'll go for that. And in reality, they didn't deliver, and we actually lost the money on that order as well. So we then had to, start the search again. So the next time round, we actually just did 10 samples from a couple of different suppliers, and actually took a bit longer to build that relationship before we then progressed. And then in our initial orders, we actually just, again, did those nominal quantities, and we just built it up slower and slower. So also the reality, when I talk about getting comfortable with that uncertainty, was, the reality on those first products, we probably weren't making any money at all because of the quantities that we were ordering our stock in. Be clear on the value that you bring to customers. So again, there might be times when you do question the product, when you're looking and getting distracted by what competitors are doing, and also the reality that not everybody will like or value your product like you do. You can't be everything to everyone. We know, that some people might think, oh, it's just a pack of cards, But I think where we see the value is actually the communications, the connections and relationships that you're building with friends and families. That really is the end value of our cards. It's not really the pack of cards you're buying. That is just a vehicle to actually deliver on a much richer experience. But not everyone will see that or get that, and that's fine. Test and review your different channels that you're going to be selling through. Retail may not be the right fit for everybody. Like I said before, we had to get our heads around what margins that retailers need. And we have the additional challenge with manufacturing in the UK that our price point is a certain price point to produce. And therefore, on the shelf in store next to something that is manufactured in China, it is going to be hard for us to compete on shelf and compete on those margins. We're super grateful for the retailers who have jumped on board and are supporting us so far. And we definitely look to continue to grow that retail channel for us as well. But we've probably been focusing a lot of our energy on our online channel and some of the advertising that we have running to lead people to our website. which a point on that, do consider when you are considering the channels, do take into account the different fees that different platforms have. Amazon, Etsy, they obviously have an audience there, which is fantastic. They do take percentages. But when you do have your own website, you obviously need to drive people to your website. So you therefore obviously need to most likely spend time, energy, whether it's on PR or paid advertising, or as well on organic social media. Social media for us is certainly something we're a little hit and miss with, purely because, there is only 2 of us and lots of plates to spin as well. And finally, I'll just say, do consider what is important to you and the way you do business. So for us, we have been really keen to have this as a UK manufactured product that does come with its own challenges, cost mainly being one. And obviously other people have said to us, just get it produced in China and, you can make loads more money off it. And really, that isn't where our values and motivations lie. And then the very, very last one actually is consider, especially in, we're really, only a year and a bit into this, but it is, what's a luxury cost and what's a necessity. So, it is keeping your costs to a minimal, or where you are spending extra costs, are they effective? Are they going to have a return on the business? So obviously we packaged and processed all of our orders. We did them all, had everything at home. And it was only after a year that we engaged a third-party fulfillment partner to help us with storing the product and then shipping it out. But that is also a luxury as well to have. So do consider what can you manage doing at a minimal cost, and at what point is it worth outsourcing some of those things as well. So hopefully there's some useful tips and insights for people there. So I hope that has been an interesting listen and helpful as well to some of you listening. I'm not going to lie, it is not easy doing a solo recording. Definitely don't have as much banter with yourself as when you're bouncing off a guest. And I think the amount of times that I have had to press re-record on parts of this as well. So I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to drop us, DM on Instagram, on email, if you would like to know anything more about our journey. Equally, what you did think of this style of episode. If you would like us to include more of these types of episodes, we can also focus on specific topics as well. I know I've answered a few general varied questions on there, but hopefully it gives people who don't know so much about our background and our journey a bit more insight, and as well gives some people some thoughts and guidance on their own journey. So thank you so much for listening, and look forward to sharing our next episode with you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for more information on today's guests, and if really good conversations are your thing, hit subscribe and join us next time for more business journeys, insights and banter.